Live from the Rotor Report with your hosts, Kylie
and Hayden.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the new movie in the Hunger Games series, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So, I've seen this movie twice.
Me too.
And, so we kind of had an idea of, everything, watching it back, getting to, further analyze it, because first time watching it, you're obviously just absorbing the movie. Second time watching it, we were really able to,
do a deep dive and kind of pay attention to the things that you might have missed on your first watch.
Yeah. Okay, so, we first want to just kind of break down the Hunger Games a little bit for any listeners that may not know. The Hunger Games became a event whenever the districts of Panem revolted against the capital. So there's 13 districts of Panem. Each district has their own specialty. So, for example, if you know the basic story of the Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen is the main character, and she's from District 12. And District 12 is a mining district. And there's also a fishing district,
textiles.
Yeah, so that's kind of how the districts were broken down. And then the districts revolted against the capital, and the most rich people in Panem live in the capital. So the capital created the Hunger Games to kind of keep the districts calmer and more controlled. Then what is the Hunger Games? So the Hunger Games is basically a televised game that people in the capital had created. There were two creators, and they have what's called a reaping. And every year, all of the children under 18 have their name put into a bowl, I guess.
Yeah, like a bowl, like a bingo spinner almost.
Yeah, kind of like that. And they would get, two kids, one female, one male, get picked from each district, and they go to the capital where the game headquarters is set up, and they basically fight to the death, and there's only one winner for the whole thing. It doesn't matter if it's a male, female, doesn't matter what district, there's one winner. So
if you've read or watched the original Hunger Games movies, you will know that the Hunger Games that happen when Katniss is around, they're very televised, publicity, stuff like that. It's because they want to have viewership of the Hunger Games, and that kind of leads us into the new movie, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes. Mm-hmm. So our main character, there's two main characters in the new movie, Lucy Gray and Coriolanus Snow. Lucy Gray is the female tribute from District 12, and every tribute was then assigned a mentor from the capital, and these mentors were basically seniors at the capital high school.
Yeah, so each student in the capital was educated because they're rich, they have money, so they were educated. And this kind of will all tie together with President Snow. So Coriolanus Snow, his father was actually he co-created the games with the master game creator. And so that was why President Snow was able to get education, because while his family may not have had a lot of money, his father was a very well-known individual. So he was able to get education, and when they were graduating, they would get a prize. And every student went into this graduation thinking that their grades and their attendance would grant them the prize, and then they are told that they are going to become mentors for the district tributes in the next game. And Coriolanus Snow really did single-handedly make the publication and the overall, like, televised part of the Hunger Games a thing. The Hunger Games were about to collapse. They weren't going to have any more games because no one was watching, no one cared anymore. The districts were revolting again. Like, the Hunger Games weren't doing their job. So Snow decided that if he and all of his other mentors, could create a personal relationship with the tributes, with everyone in the districts, that they would be more inclined to watch the games, make sure that their tribute that they were rooting for would win the games, watch tributes they were rooting against die in the games. He really set up this, like, how we in modern day connect to TV shows and connect to the things that we watch. So he really took these games and made them into TV and reality TV for the citizens of Panem.
And like I touched on briefly before, Coriolanus Snow was assigned District 12's female, which is usually seen as the runts of the litter and usually the weakest, and gets killed very fast in the Hunger Games. But Snow was determined to have Lucy Gray win because he thought that that's how he was going to achieve the prize.
Yeah.
But Coriolanus Snow was the only person that was told that there was going to be no prize after this graduation. So he was primarily doing this for the good of his tribute, which that kind of shows, even though he evolves into this evil person in the original Hunger Games books and movies, this shows a side of him that actually cares for the districts and cares about the people within them. And Lucy Gray, District 12's female tribute, she definitely was not a runt of the litter. She was very not outspoken.
She came into the games very, she just had a very rebellious personality with her, and a lot of tributes did not have the same. Many tributes come into it scared, as everyone would be if you were being basically sent off to your death. Everyone was scared. Lucy Gray had this very witty personality, and she just kind of was, like, she didn't care. Like, she thought she was going to die, but, like, she just did not let that get in her way or change who she was.
And she was a fan favorite. The way Coriolanus pitched the games and the way the games changed for, the 10th Hunger Games?
Yeah.
This movie is set around the 10th Hunger Games, and Coriolanus' idea was to have viewer interaction. And the way Lucy Gray became such a fan favorite was because of her voice, and she put herself out there into the public's eye and made her a very ripe contender for winning the Hunger Games.
Yep. And Lucy Gray is just a very important individual in the entire Hunger Games series, because honestly, her as a person shaped how the rest of the series went. So Susan Collins, that's her name, right?
Yeah, that's the author's name.
Yeah, she wrote this book after she wrote the series.
It's a prequel.
But it is a prequel, and you can see the similarities between Lucy Gray and Katniss Everdeen, especially in the movie. I can speak for both of us when I say neither of us have read the actual book.
Yeah.
But just through watching the movie, Lucy Gray makes a lot of connections with Katniss's whole personality as well. They have the exact same personality. They're rebellious, they're determined, they know what they want, they're gonna get it. And they have this sort of hatred for the Capitol that motivates them to do their best and to act how they do in the games. And just some pointers that we had when we were watching the movie was Lucy Gray was the first one to bring up the Mockingjay. And if you don't know, the Mockingjay is Katniss's symbol throughout the Hunger Games. There's actually 2 movies in the series, Mockingjay Part 1 and Mockingjay Part 2.
In the Revolution and the original Hunger Games movies, Mockingjay Part 1 and Mockingjay Part 2, her character is literally known as the Mockingjay. She is the symbol of the Revolution. The Mockingjay is what drives
the districts.
The districts.
Yeah, so Lucy Gray actually was the first person to ever say the Mockingjay, and with a little bit of research, we found that the Mockingjays are actually a combination of mockingbirds and jabberjays, which are genetically engineered birds that the Capitol created to spy on rebel districts and report back to the Capitol. So the Mockingjay was something that Lucy Gray brought up, which was then created, basically, Katniss created her whole personality. And, yeah, so...
Another, big thing,
where we both looked at each other, and we were like, oh my God.
So, there's one scene where Lucy Gray and Coriolanus were sitting by a pond, and Lucy Gray's, niece, came up to Lucy Gray holding what is commonly known as a swamp potato. And they have this brief conversation about it, and she says, I don't know why something so beautiful has such an ugly name. And she says that she likes to call the swamp potatoes Katniss.
So that's really, we literally looked at each other and we were like, Katniss, she literally said her name, and that kind of led into this huge theory about how, they could be distant relatives. I've heard great-grandmother, I've heard
great aunt.
Great aunt, distant cousin, but somehow everyone thinks that the two could be related, and it would make a lot of sense. There's just a lot of connections between the two that Suzanne Collin makes over the entire course of the series.
In the trailers that the Hunger Games put out for this movie, it's crazy because there's this iconic bow that Katniss and Lucy Gray both do.
Oh, yeah.
And they, basically morphed the 2 scenes together, and it's such a good trailer. 100% recommend watching, but you can just see the similarities between the 2.
So, overall, this is such a great movie, and if I liked both parts, both aspects of every single movie. So if you like the fighting aspect of the first 2 and you like the storyline behind the last 2 movies,
it's a perfect mix.
This is a perfect mix. You get to see the 10th annual Hunger Games. You get to see the tributes fight before they had all of the modern technology they did in the 74th and 75th Hunger Games. But you also get to see a beautiful storyline between Lucy Gray and Coriolanus Snow. So I would 100% recommend watching it whenever you can. And yeah, that's all we have for today. So we hope you enjoyed the Garnet Gold Gazette's first ever podcast. Yeah. And we will tune back in another day. Bye!
Bye!